Hello and welcome to the Mainly Facts. If you've missed any of our videos, this collection is just what you're looking for. Without further ado, let's get right to the point.
Story 1. Entitled mother lets her kid steal my blind cane. So, a bit of backstory. I'm a 28-year-old woman who just recently went fully blind. When I was a teenager, I volunteered with my local youth group to help rebuild Mississippi after Hurricane Katrina, and while down there I picked up a fungal parasite called histoplasmosis that over a decade migrated to my eyes and slowly caused blindness. I've been totally blind for about a year now, so I'm pretty new to it, but I digress. When I first went blind, I barely left the house and was afraid to go in public. I felt like everyone was staring at me, and in all honesty, I barely knew what I was doing. The transition had been difficult, and I didn't have any support group to teach me. One day, my husband asked if I can take an Uber down to the bank and deposit a rent check, and I reluctantly agree. While out, he messaged again and reminds me that we're out of a few crucial groceries. There was a Walmart grocery literally across the street from the bank, so I figured everything in a life is an experience and I'll have to learn how to shop alone eventually, so why not? Everything was fine at first, and I was only grabbing a few things, so I didn't need a cart. I was using my cane and what little echolocation skills I had at the time to get around, but was still bumping into things as we blind tend to do sometimes. My cane suddenly hit something a bit softer, and I figured maybe I had whacked someone's leg and apologize. Cue entitled kid, EK, and entitled mother, EM. Shoot, I'm sorry, entitled mom. Hey, you just hit my son. I'm so sorry, ma'am. I didn't see him there. How could you not see him? He's clearly right here. Now, I'm fully blind, but I don't wear sunglasses, mostly because I can't afford a good UV-blocking pair, so I'm not ever looking for pity or to play the part of a generic blind person. I just want to be treated like a normal person, but I do understand her confusion as blindness is a spectrum, so I try to calmly explain. Me. Ma'am, I'm blind. I can't see anything, let alone your son. That's why I have to use the cane, so I can get around without... She cuts me off. If you're blind, then why aren't you wearing big sunglasses? Now, as a blind person, I get a lot of stupid questions, but I understand a lot of them are just people who don't know better, so I try to happily answer as many as I can. Me. Those are really expensive, around $200 for a good pair, and I really don't need any inside. Entitled mom. You're not blind, you're faking it. Here is where my blood starts to boil. I can't think of any reason someone would want to pretend to be blind. It's an actual hell, and nothing pees me off more than whenever someone calls me a liar when I'm not. Just as I'm about to respond, I feel a tug, and before I blink, I realize this damn little demon spawn has snatched my $100 cane from my hands. For those of you who don't understand, that's like if you're shopping and suddenly the power goes out and you can't see a single light. Without my cane, I can barely move at all without crashing into anything. My voice gets shaky as I begin to panic. Please give that back. I really do need it. No, you don't, you liar. My son deserves to play with this more than you. I heard her shuffle away and my expensive cane cracking into metal displays and such as they leave. I start crying and waving my arms in front of me to grab onto something, anything, and it ends up crashing and falling into a center aisle display, making a loud scene. Without fail, I somewhat curl into a ball and cry. I'm alone in public, in the dark, and I had no idea what to do. I suddenly feel a hand on my shoulder and a man's voice, we'll call him AG for awesome guy, asks if I'm okay and to stay right here. I do, but begin to at least sit up and listen. This man must have been tall and built like a tank because his footsteps sounded like a giant, and I felt a suction of wind when he took off. Maybe about 30 or 40 feet away, I hear this loud bellowing like an angry lion and a loud crash. Then before I know it, the man is back and helping me to my feet. He takes my hand and puts my cane into my palm and helps me pick up the items I dropped when I fell into the display. Me, wiping tears from my cheeks. Thank you so much. I didn't know how to handle that. AG, don't worry about it. Some people are just monsters. This guy restored my faith in humanity and even helped me finish shopping and helped me out of the store. As we're leaving, I can hear the familiar screeching of entitled mom, something about awesome guy grabbing the cane and pulling hard, flinging her little devil child into a shopping cart. I don't know if she was exaggerating or not, but it would explain the crash I heard. It's easy to feel alone in a world without sight, but even through the sheer terror of being stripped of my cane, at least I know now that there are people willing to stand up for me when I need it. First off, huge props to Awesome Guy, and huge props to the person posting this for taking that chance, doing that first step outside. I imagine that cannot be easy, but you tried, and then someone made that a miserable experience. And that entitled mom and that little kid deserve to have, charges pressed against them. This is absurd. I guess maybe not the kid, but the mom for raising a monster. And who encounters someone that says, I'm blind, and has the cane, and then is so confident in themselves to be like, no, you're not. I'm going to let them take this. And a person like that, just what an awful kind of human being. Can you imagine if this person had friends and there was video of that taken and you just showed all those friends? Who would still be friends with someone like that? I want you to imagine if you had someone who was a dear friend of yours, and then you saw them do something like that. I can't think of anyone in my life that I would not then go what is wrong with you? I can't be around you. What an awful, awful thing that you have done. Just how do people operate like this? I don't understand. Story 2. We're having a 6th kid we can't afford, so we expect you to give us your college fund. I am a 19-year-old female, my parents' 2nd child. I have 3 brothers, 21, 13, and 7, and a sister, 16. We grew up poor, and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends, etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job and my mom doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to crap. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. To top it off, we were well aware that the rest of the family looked down on us for constantly asking for handouts. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I were staying at our parents' place for a while due to the COVID-19 lockdown. One morning, my parents call all 5 of us into the living room. Mom says she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face died a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant." I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still hadn't learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great-uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money which only we could access when we turned 18. I said, hell no. That money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for my family. I told them if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mom started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me. I told them there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity, and the only thing I would be willing to pay for is a termination. What I was really worried about was my siblings' lives getting even worse. My older brother and I have escaped our parents' clutches, but the others, especially my young sister, will be expected to help take care of this baby. No teenager deserves to have their adolescence ruined by diapers and a screaming baby. I know what it's like, as I had to go through that. It was expected of me to be an unpaid nanny to my younger brother and sister. My older brother could go out with his friends and have fun, but I had to stay home and help give baths and feed the toddlers. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mom's maternal cousin, one of my favorite people. When I told her that mom and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "What, again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance. She said she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course I won't. I also called 2 of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parent how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be and try to convince them either to abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay there till the lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mom's nagging about how this baby is a blessing and that I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mom's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mom was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids nor had any, one of the reasons she's my fave. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try. I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have, and my mom cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby. The intervention didn't do crap. So now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. My older brother is going to stay in touch with all of them, which is a good thing, as he can act like a link between me and the other siblings if my parents ever forbid them from talking to me. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. Yesterday afternoon, I got a call from my older brother. He told me that my mom has miscarried. This was hardly surprising, as she's in her 40s. I felt a huge wave of relief wash over me. My siblings' lives would not be worsened, and my parents' insistence on adding another mouth to feed on an already tight budget. My sister would not be asked to give up her inheritance, so they could have money for their new baby. My brother told me that my mom had been crying, and while I did feel bad for her, I was still glad to hear about the miscarriage. I feel like we all dodged a huge bullet. Bro asked me to move back in for a while to help comfort my mom. I told him I wasn't going to move in because 1, my college would reopen in a few days, and 2, I'm done with all the family drama. However, I did agree to come visit my mom, if only out of courtesy. In the evening, I went over to my parents' place. I bought chocolate chip muffins for my mom, which I knew she likes. My sister greeted me at the door and told me Mom had been in bed all day. After greeting my dad, I went into their bedroom. Mom was sitting up on the bed. I told her I was sorry about what happened and placed the muffins on the bedside table. She looked at me angrily, then threw the muffins at me. She screamed at me that she had lost her baby because of me. She said I had caused her stress, and it's what caused her to miscarry. She said I was probably glad the baby was dead, which is true, but of course I didn't point that out. She called me a witch and said I had wished this upon her. She was screaming so loudly all my siblings and my dad came rushing to the bedroom. She yelled at me to get out. I did. I hugged my older brother and sister. Before I left, my dad told me my mom was right, that my cruelty caused her to miscarry. I told him that was a grossly unfair accusation and reminded him that at my mom's age, it was quite common to miscarry. Then I walked out. Now, I'm sure that there are nicer ways that you could have put some of that stuff, but also, I have not lived this person's life, and I have not gone through what they've had to go through with these parents, and so I don't think I can blame her for maybe being a little harsh with her words on that stuff. But also, yeah, these parents could have had the option to just say, like, we should probably give it up for abortion. Adoption. If they're not comfortable with abortion. There are many people out there looking for kids that could give this kid a better life when you don't have the money for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Adoption is a beautiful, wonderful thing. But parents, people, they get stuck on these ideas. And yes, love can get you through a lot, but putting the rest of your family and this child through all this financial difficulty isn't great, you know? So sometimes you got to think bigger picture. So yeah, I cannot blame this person for what they've said. And then for the mom to accuse her, I understand the mom's in a very emotionally vulnerable place, but to blame one of your other kids for this and call them a witch. Look, if you think kids are a blessing from God, do you really think another person can magic away your gift from God? God's just going to allow that? Come on, what about his big plan and stuff like that? I'm sorry, pick a lane, okay? But emotionally vulnerable, she's distraught. Hopefully this family has gotten over this and can repair some damages, but jeez. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for bringing up my brother's premature birth at Christmas dinner to get my parents to shut up? I am a nurse practitioner, and I am the primary care provider for a lot of the low-risk maternity cases at the practice where I work. I also work hand-in-hand with the doctors and midwives to create a healthy maternity, birth, and postpartum situation. My fiancé is completing her residency. We live together and have for a few years now. We aren't in any hurry to get married. We originally had plans to do so a couple of years ago, but then we got really busy for 2 years. It's driving my very religious parents crazy that their youngest son is living in sin. I don't really care. I'm an adult, and I do what I want. We're getting married in June. So we're visiting my parents for Christmas. The way it came together this year, everyone is at my parents' house. So that's my folks, my 3 siblings, myself and fiancé, and 7 grandchildren. So 17 people. At dinner, my mom starts going on about how she's so glad that we're finally getting married and she won't be embarrassed at church anymore. And my dad says how proud he is of his 3 older kids who are either waited to get married before moving in together or got married right away after moving in together. My fiancé was getting embarrassed and I was getting mad over this stupid argument we've had too many times. And a family dinner was the last straw. I asked them repeatedly to just accept that they cannot control how I live my life. I refuse to stay with them when I visit, even if I come alone. Hotels are just easier. So I started talking about a premature baby I had been reading about. It was almost 3 months premature and weighed about 1.6 pounds. It was super strong and healthy for being born so little, and the NICU had high hopes for the baby doing well. My mom and dad both got deer-in-the-headlights looks on their faces. Too bad. Should not have effed around with my fiancé's feelings. So I asked about my oldest brother. He was born almost 4 months premature. Is there a chance that we could check out the family album where we keep all the records of family births and stuff? I already know my brother was over 9 pounds and almost 23 inches long when he was born. My grandmother told me all about it the first time my parents tried to shame me. The subject gets changed very fast. After supper, my parents told me that I should not try to embarrass them with private things that are not my concern. I told them that if I heard anything about my living arrangement ever again for the rest of my life, I would make sure to keep bringing up the fact that my mom was in her 2nd trimester when they got married. My parents are mad at me for telling them how to behave in their own home, but my fiancé is happy that they seem to be off the subject for good. Am I the a-hole? Come on. I think you know the answer to that. You didn't post that question with any, real thought that you might be an a-hole. You know you're not. You're kind of an a-hole for asking it when you know you aren't the a-hole, but yeah, no, your parents are a-holes. For them to be so vocally judgmental about you, especially because, we're good Christians and you're living in sin and everything. He who is without sin may cast the first stone and all that kind of stuff. There's so much about just mind your own business. Just be accepting and loving. Don't constantly, these parents. I don't understand. They're getting embarrassed about this. Why? Just why, okay? I'm sorry, but it just... And especially knowing that, they were doing it before marriage, so, I guess we should bring that up constantly as an example. But no, you bring that up and they get real mad about it. So, you shouldn't be, bringing that stuff up against it. Then you don't either, Mom and Dad. You don't get to bring up that crap if they don't get to bring up your crap. Okay? But this is our house. F your house. Story 2. Ruin my wedding to propose? I'll ruin your proposal. I, 35 male, have a younger brother, Todd, 29 male, who had a complicated birth and had to stay a month in the ICU, and because of that my parents have always doted on him and almost denied him nothing, even if it was to the detriment of my sister Abby, 32 female, and I. My brother drinks in the attention and has on more than one occasion made himself the center of attention at either my sister's, or a cousin's special event. Because of this, Abby and I have a strange relationship with Todd and our parents. Unfortunately, Todd met and fell in love with Lucy, 24 female, who announced her own pregnancy at the baby shower my mom held for Abby. When I proposed to my wife, Michelle, 30 female, I just wanted to elope, but she really wanted her family to be there, so I invited my family out of obligation. When While out, my best man Jim, 35 male, noticed a receipt from a jewelry store slipped out of Todd's pocket. Jim confronted Todd about this, which led to an argument. Jim told me everything, and I told Todd that he was no longer going to be a groomsman because I knew he was going to propose at my wedding. Todd cried to our parents, and which led to a blowout. In my parents' eyes, since Todd never admitted that he was going to propose to Lucy at my wedding, I was unfairly judging him. I refused and brought up Todd's past behavior. My parents couldn't refute this and got Todd to agree to not try anything at my wedding. This wasn't enough to convince him to let him be a groomsman, but I warned him that if, as a guest, he'd try anything, I would make him regret it. Fast forward to the wedding, and surprise, surprise, Todd walked over to Lucy and proposed to her during Michelle's father-daughter dance, and did it in a way so that everyone would notice. Cue my revenge. Jim and I had hired a woman to pretend to be Todd's side piece who cornered Todd and Lucy and claimed that she was pregnant with his baby. Todd denied this, but when she called his phone, I gave her his number and messaged with Todd's phone to incriminate him. It didn't look good. Lucy threw the ring back at Todd and left in tears. When Todd saw the smile on my face, he knew that it was me, and I didn't respond to a single call or text from him or my parents until after the honeymoon. Lucy has thrown Todd's stuff out and has been denying access to their kid. Todd is furious and demanding that I clear his name. I sent him a text saying that I had no idea what he was talking about, as well as a screenshot of a bill for the wedding, and gave a vague message demanding reimbursement for half of the wedding costs. Michelle knew the whole time that I was what I was planning and gave me the green light after Todd ruined her moment with her dad, so I felt pretty good, but now even Abby thinks I went too far. I mean, Todd deserves something, for sure. This might be a little bit far when you are ruining his relationship and severing his connection to his own child with a lie just because he, yes, lied to you and did the thing. And I'm not saying that he should get away with what he did at all, but to make him pay for half of a wedding, which typically are not cheap affairs, that seems like a lot. Especially, I don't know. Like, I feel like you could have warned him beforehand, like, look, if you do propose during the wedding, I'm going to ruin you. Or something. I don't know. Maybe you did. I mean, I don't know how you get back at Todd or if you just cut things off with him or what. But I do feel like destroying his life to that extent might be a bit too far. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for getting my daughter a hotel room entirely for herself after her stepsisters made her sleep on the floor? My dad passed away 2 weeks ago. Me, my wife Candace, and our daughters, 16, Shiloh, and her stepsisters, 19 and 17, flew to my hometown to attend the funeral. After that, we got 2 hotel rooms, one for me and Candace, one for the girls. While I was in the room, I got a call from Shiloh at 11 p.m. crying and sounded like she was arguing with her stepsisters. I asked what the matter was, and she told me that her stepsisters insisted that she sleep on the floor. There was one large bed in the room, and there was enough space for all 3 girls to sleep on. I asked why, and she said she didn't know. I went to see what the issue was and talked with my stepdaughters about it. They kept talking but didn't really explain why they told her to sleep on the floor. They just shrugged and said, "It's better this way. We're more comfortable this way." I told Shiloh to grab her things, and when one of my stepdaughters asked where we were going, I told her I was booking her a hotel room. Both looked upset but didn't say anything, but they must have called their mom because she was awake when I got back and started arguing with me about giving Shiloh an entire hotel room for herself. I explained why I did it, but she said I wasted money and that Shiloh could have sucked it up for one night on the floor. I called her unreasonable for saying this, but she told me I showed the girls that I'm playing favorites and made my stepdaughters share a room while I gave my daughter an entire room for herself. We went home and Candace is still bringing it up, saying I mishandled this. She even pointed out how my stepdaughters are upset since they're not speaking to me. ETA, it was Candace who got a room for the 3 girls so as not to stir any drama and save money. She was in charge of hotel reservations since I was emotionally distressed. Also, Candace did not expect Shiloh to sleep on the floor. She wanted all 3 girls to share the bed. ETA 2, for those that are calling me an a-hole for giving my daughter her name. Her mom did that, and she's deceased, so please let's not focus on that. And also, I've known my stepdaughter since they were little. We're pretty much family, and Candace is a sham, but I give her full access to my money since this stuff was already discussed beforehand. Pretty much everything was. Yeah, I mean, first off, to expect 3 people who are like adult size to share one even king size bed is kind of asking a lot. So if the wife Candace was the one making the hotel reservations, should have at least been like 2 double-sized beds. One bed with 2 people sharing and one bed where just one person gets it or whatever. Like, that's not hard. Also, a lot of hotels also offer like cot services where they will bring in a like rollaway bed. So there were ways to get around this, possibly. But I say getting the whole room for her is fine. I think that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do, because being made to sleep on the floor, hotel room floors are hard. The carpets are very, very thin because they're easier to maintain. It sucks. Like, no. You didn't come there with extra padding for her to sleep on and stuff. That's ridiculous. No. Another hotel room is absolutely fine. And to heck with anyone, like, you know, to heck with that mom and those other girls. Like, they probably all could have fit on one big king-size bed, I guess. I got a king-size bed, and it fits me, my partner, and our dog. And we still got a little room left. I don't know. Just, yeah, no. This was silly, but the room, I think, is fine. You're not an a-hole. Story 2. Your bar isn't child-friendly. There's too much alcohol. What? Backstory. I work at an alcoholic bar that essentially turns into a club at night. This man just came in with his toddlerish kid, ordered a crap load of beers, and essentially let the toddler run around my bar to do whatever it wants. It made its way behind the bar while I was attempting to pee on my break and hit its head on something. Imagine my surprise when I exit the bathroom and immediately get yelled at by this guy about how the child's misadventurous accident was my fault. The exact quote is, "This place is not fit for a child. There's too much alcohol and wires behind the bar." Maybe because I run a bar, not a daycare. Essentially, I hate kids and incompetent, entitled parents. Edit. This is once again an opportunity to tell Americans that cultures other than their own exist. Southern Europe bars are often frequented by adults with their kids, and it's considered normal here. However, I do wish they'd look after their rats and not blame me for their misconduct. Yeah, I'm sorry. It is not any restaurant establishment or store or whatever. It is not their job to watch your kids unless it is a daycare or a school. Anything other than that, as a parent, you need to watch your kids. And if your kids run around and do something they're not supposed to, that's your fault. This isn't a discussion. This should not be a thing. Any parent doing crap, but it is a thing because parents let their kids run around and do crap all the time and act mad when suddenly their kid gets hurt because they let their kid, climb up on a, shelf that isn't meant to hold people, because some parents are bad at being parents and maybe need to learn to be better because they're in charge of a life. Come on. Story 3. Neighbors used my property as their own, paid for a new fence. I recently bought a house and have been having some work done before I moved in. It was empty on the market for about 6 or 8 months before I bought it. One morning I got a call from my contractor asking me about moving the cars in the driveway, and of course I had no idea what he was talking about. I hadn't moved in yet. I left my job site and drove nearly half an hour to get there. As soon as I arrived, the people on the east side of me were walking toward the cars. I asked if they were in their cars, and they said yes. They told me that they had been parking there for a few months with permission from the owners. I informed them that I was the new owner and they can't park there any longer. We went back and forth, and with the intention of being a good neighbor and trying to show some goodwill, I agreed to allow them to park there for a few more weeks until I moved in, with the agreement that they would move them by 6 a.m. every morning. The rest of the week went by without incident. The contractor called me about scheduling a walkthrough on Saturday, and we set a time for early afternoon. When I arrived, there were 4 cars in the driveway and nowhere to park. The only on-street parking is 2 blocks away. I called them and asked them to move their vehicles, reminding them of our agreement. After 20 minutes, they finally came out and moved them. Speaking with them, they claimed to have misunderstood and thought the agreement only referred to weekdays and not weekends. I corrected them and moved on. Saturday morning, I grabbed a trailer and loaded some furniture to take over and store in the garage. Once again, there were cars in the driveway. I called them and got a voicemail. I texted and said they had until a tow truck could arrive to get them moved. No answer. I called a tow company. 45 minutes later, 2 tow trucks show up, backed in, and hooked up to the cars. All of a sudden, the neighbors were home. They ran out to stop their cars from being towed, and it ended up costing them a little over $300 to get them unhooked. I called my contractor and asked if he knew someone who could put in a driveway gate, and he did. I let the neighbors know that they could no longer use my driveway. On Wednesday, I got a call from the gate installer telling me that there are cars in the driveway. I called them and said tow trucks are on the way. They moved. The gate was installed and I went by to pick up the opener that evening. The neighbor husband came out to confront me and I opted to just call the PD and deal with it legally. That Saturday, I went by to accept an outdoor furniture delivery and check on things when I noticed a towel beside the pool and a small kid's flotation device. My initial thought was that I just hadn't noticed it before, so I wrote it off and threw them both in the trash. On Saturday, the movers arrived with everything and we began moving things in. About 7 p.m., my daughter and I left to go grab some dinner, arriving back at the house around 9:30 p.m. The neighbors were in my pool. They were hanging out and using my furniture. When I opened the door and began raising hell, they told the kids to go to the house and the children ran to a corner of our fence and just walked through. They had cut out the privacy fence so it could be removed and had been using the pool at their leisure for who knows how long. Again, I called the police and filed a complaint. The dad was arrested for trespassing, DPP, and outstanding warrant, and the oldest boy, 20 male, for an outstanding warrant. I replaced the fence with a new one because they had destroyed the posts, runners, and pickets by removing and reinstalling the panel. Small Claims awarded me the cost of 83 feet of 8-foot privacy fence, which came out to $3,800. The following Monday morning around 5 a.m., their cars were parked in the street where there's no street parking, so I made a phone call. They were gone when I left at 7 a.m. I haven't been paid yet, but I did notice a for rent sign in their yard this morning, so that's just as good. Good riddance. Edit/update. 1, for those of you suggesting a security system, one was installed that next week, along with 6 cameras around the house, a Ring doorbell, and a fence around the pool itself to keep the dogs and my grandson out of it. I'll be closing and covering the pool in the next few weeks. 2, met the owner of the house yesterday evening. The house will be empty by the end of the week. They were evicted for non-payment of rent, likely due to tow charges, and the husband not working because he was incarcerated, where he remains. Warrant was for back child support. Wife apologized and claimed that she was told they had permission to use the pool. They didn't. 3, the material for the fence was purchased through my company account. I'm a structural engineer and commercial construction manager for a large local GC. Only 2 posts had to be replaced and a handful of runners. The rest was just 8-foot, 1x6.5 pressure-treated pickets, which cost me $2.60 per stick, times 212 pickets purchased. The rest was labor and fasteners, so altogether about $900 for materials and stain, $150 for a dumpster, and the rest went towards labor to finish it on a weekend. Fun fact, I'm also a property investor/flipper. Been in construction, commercial, civil, industrial, and residential for 35 years. Not my first fence, nor my first a-hole neighbor. Before the paint expert jumped on board, I know how long I have to wait before pressure washing and staining the fence. 4, the petty was only my twisting the knife by having their cars towed from the street when they weren't affecting me at all. Too long didn't read. Neighbors to the new house used my driveway and destroyed my backyard fence to use the pool, sued them and won, had their cars towed, and now they're being evicted for non-payment of rent. Well, I will say, sounds like some pretty miserable neighbors. They clearly were, just not listening to your pretty reasonable requests at the beginning there, like, hey, please don't park in my driveway from this time to this time, because people coming in and out, we need that driveway. And that's an easy thing to not screw up, So, yeah, I think you had a right to, call to have them towed and stuff. I feel you get a little bit meaner towards the end there, and whether or not that's justified, I don't know. I didn't deal with them. I didn't know how bad of people they are, so it feels a little mean to me, but technically you're justified, so I don't know. I did cringe at the house flipper because I hate flipping houses. I hate what it does to houses. I hate a lot of that stuff, investors and all that. I don't know, but you know what? I shouldn't be judging this person. That's my own qualms. Maybe this guy is really, really very pleasant and nice, and these people just got under his skin. So, fine, whatever. House flippers are fine, I guess. I don't know. Freaking ruining the economy, whatever. I don't know what I'm talking. I don't know. Okay, whatever. Leave me alone. I'm a jackbutt on the internet just talking in videos. Sometimes I just say stuff. Someone's gonna get mad in the comments. I'll be like, fine. Story 1. Entitled Mom Brings Along Her Kid to Work Unannounced. Background. My company sets up a booth at a carnival, and we engaged several part-timers to assist at the carnival. The part-timers are required to go around the carnival ground to distribute flyers, share information, and direct visitors to our booth. The story. On the day of the carnival, after setting up, I met up with the part-timers to prepare them for the day. Out of all the part-timers, only Entitled Mom was late. She mentioned she will be 15 minutes late, but it was closer to an hour. As we couldn't wait, I briefed the others and deployed them for the day. When Entitled Mom arrived, she had her kid in tow, 5 to 6 years old. Due to job nature, we can't have her lugging her kid while working. Entitled Mom knew this. Entitled Mom, my husband couldn't handle kids, so I had to bring her along. Me, I can't have you working with your kid. Entitled Mom, it's not my problem. If you don't like it, get someone to watch over him. My colleague, C, who was watching this unfold, offered to watch over her kid. He was only required to help out during the start and end of the carnival, so was entirely free during the event. I thought airtight since he was free. C, I can watch over her, get her some food, watch some shows, play some games, but you'll need to pay me. Entitled Mom, whatever, but I'm not paying you for your time, only for kid. C, grinning, sure. I was flabbergasted. C told me not to worry, he had a plan. Once Entitled Mom started working, C brought Entitled Mom's kid systematically through every single booth throughout the entire carnival. It was the kid's dream come true, and I believe her best day ever. Whatever she wanted to eat, C bought. She saw a lot of the shows and won many prizes. Since C had a staff pass, he didn't need to pay for the shows, only for the kid. At the end of the carnival, when we were clocking the hours worked, EM had the nerve to insist to be paid full, even though she was almost 1 hour late. She said that because of various reasons, mainly due to her kid, she would have been early. She was ranting, and I didn't really pay any attention as I was tired and I didn't decide on the pay, but it was about how I will never understand as I don't have kids and how she deserves it because she was a mother. My manager nearby winked at me and took over. He said he was very pleased with the day's sales and how we are very supportive of her and we should give her kids the best. He told not to worry about the hours she was working and EM will be paid in full. After hearing this, not even a single thanks from Entitled Mom, she declared in a loud voice, at least someone understands. She had this condescending and victorious look on her face. Thankfully, it didn't last long. The sucker punch for Entitled Mom was that Entitled Mom's kid spent roughly $100, and with Entitled Mom's pay at $15 an hour for 8 hours, equaling about $120, she made a whopping $20 for the whole day. C made it a point to keep track of the expenses, receipts, tickets, stubs, etc., and took tons of photos. Of course, Entitled Mom threw a fit, but with the amount of evidence and her daughter vouching for all the fun she had, Entitled Mom had no case except to yell, "I'm not paying for this," grabbed her daughter and stormed off. We look forward to payday when we issue her a check for $20 after subtracting the amount her daughter spent. Look, I am all for workplaces being more willing to work with parents. It's tough being a parent. There is so much that goes into it. And, when she was like, oh, my husband couldn't handle the kid, like, it sounds like maybe she's dealing with some stuff at home too. And so I am sure that she's having a hard time of things. And it is nice when a workplace can be more understanding and can try to help out and stuff. But she gets a little too entitled about it. This is one of the most deserved EM descriptors that I have seen. Because she just acts like everyone should bend to her whim and this and that. There's no oh, I'm really sorry about this. I'm trying to do my best, but if there's anything that we could figure out. Nothing like that. She's just like, you're going to figure it out for me. You're going to do this because I'm a mom and my job's hard. And it is. But you don't get to act like that without paying for it. And apparently it costs about $100 a day. Story 2. Let them eat cake. Long ago, way back in the before time, I worked for one of those bulk warehouse club stores. My trade was simple. I was a wrangler of the Silver Buffalo and dutifully retrieved the old ghetto strollers, I did. The job in and of itself wasn't the worst I'd ever had. I got plenty of exercise, got to be outside, and generally didn't have to interact with the members. Calling them customers was taboo. For the most part. The thing about this job is that the company I worked for had a reputation for being cheap. Thus, more often than not, I was on my own out in the parking lot. Big whoop, you might say. You gather carts. You should see how hard my job is. Yeah, well, shut up. This is my story, butt munch. I digress. The reason that being alone sucked is that this store didn't have just one kind of cart. Hell, they didn't even just have two kinds of carts. You had your classic garden variety cart, the kiddie cart with the plastic facade to make it resemble a car, the electric scooters, which weren't supposed to leave the store but did so with alarming frequency, and finally, the bulky, hard-to-control flatbeds. On top of that, whenever someone needed help loading their haul into their minivan, I was the guy they called, because the greeters, cashiers, and managers were all busy. As you might expect, one man cannot be in multiple places at once, and as a result, on some of our busier days, it became incredibly difficult to keep enough carts in the vestibule. Our story begins on one of these days. So there I was, chugging along with a good worker drone, struggling to keep up with the sheer volume of people coming in to buy cheap bulk goods. Sure enough, I get a call on the radio. Manager, Top Gorilla 17, we need some help some members load their purchases. Me, I'd love to, but I'm barely able to keep up out here as is. Manager, just do it, Top Gorilla 17. You can afford to stop gathering carts for 2 minutes. And Ron Howard, he couldn't. I didn't want to push my luck, so I complied. After spending 20 minutes loading people's purchases because when one person needs it, suddenly they all need it, I came back to find my vestibule a near ghost town, save for a single line of carts that was half gone and the Karen. I won't waste time describing this specimen. She was the prototype. You know what she looks like. There she stood, menacing, tapping her foot with such speed that could make any metal drummer green with envy. You could collect the contempt in her gaze in a jar. Karen, where are the big flat ones? I blanked for a moment. Me, I'm sorry? Karen, ugh, Mexicans. For the record, I'm very much white. Karen, where are the flat ones? Me, oh, you mean the flatbeds. I'm sorry, I was just helping some other members load their merchandise, and I haven't had a chance to. Karen, oh my God, I don't care about your excuses. You have one job, and a trained monkey could do it. I just want this lady out of my face, so I don't fight it. Sorry, ma'am, I'll grab one from the parking lot for you. You'd better. So I go back out in the lot and find a whole line of flatbeds sticking out of a corral blocking several parking spaces. I push them all into the vestibule where she waits, huffing about how I'm wasting her valuable time. I separate one from the rest and bring it to her. I'm terribly sorry about the wait, ma'am. She leers at me with utter malice. Unbelievable. And with that, she dismisses herself into the store where she will be someone else's problem. I shake my head and return to doing what I'm paid to do. About 15 minutes later, I'm returning a line of carts when I see her pushing her flatbed to her Miata and jawing about stupid people, most certainly referring to me, on her cell phone. You know what she had bought? What she had insisted on having a flatbed for? A cake. This wasn't even like a big cake. It was one of those little circular numbers like this. Anyways, I witnessed as she continues to yammer on about how I nearly ruined, I tell you, her precious baby's birthday party, when the most glorious thing happened. Still clutching her phone with those giant scoop claws of hers, she attempted to pick up the cake with one hand. The plastic topper pops off, and she spills the cake all over her undoubtedly expensive designer outfit. Seething with white-hot rage, she locks eyes with me. You get me another cake, now! Terribly sorry, ma'am. I've got one job, and those carts won't gather themselves. I walked away, crap-eating grin plastered on my face as her shrieks faded into the distance behind me. I've had my share of nasty customer interactions before, but this one really took the cake. First off, round of applause for the person who wrote this because, masterfully done, beautifully assembled. The prose, the descriptions, this was a delight to read. No, not criticizing the other stories that I've read, but I tell you, if every story I had read like this, I'd be having a day in the hay. It's so good. Wonderful. Also, yeah, there's such a Karen. So, just everything about that. So demanding, so rude, and also racist. Like, just everything all dumped into one. And then, at the end, it's her fault. She ruined her day, and it's her fault. And I'm sure she went in and probably got another cake for free because no manager would want to deal with her long enough to explain how, hey, if you are dumb, then you don't get free cake. But at least we know that she's unhappy. And maybe someone in her life could help her learn that other people, the people working at the stores, deserve to be treated nice, and maybe if she was nicer to people, more people would happily help her and she could just be happier. It's a cycle, folks. It's a cycle. Oh, man. Also, I really want some cake now. Story 1. Am I the a-hole for announcing that my dad's not paying my college tuition? My aunt and uncle are paying for my cousin's college. My dad had a college fund for me, but he had stipulations, like he wanted nothing below a B for grades and to pre-approve any classes I take, weekly meetings to discuss grades, and a bunch of other stuff, which would be fine if you have a normal dad. Mine isn't. My dad has a temper, and I spent 6th through 12th grade stressed out about grades and being screamed at or grounded over things that sometimes weren't even my fault, like a teacher not updating online grading and an assignment being marked missing because of it, and getting my backpack and locker randomly searched by him for no reason besides to make sure I'm not hiding anything. I decided to pay for school myself because of 1, not being stressed over getting screamed at, 2, I didn't feel like constantly worrying that he'd disapprove of a class or a grade and decide not to pay, which I could totally see him doing. I'd rather be in debt than controlled for 4 more years. I just finished my first year. Well, my family got together on the 4th and, well, sometimes they're nosy. They were talking about my cousin's school, and my uncle looked at my dad and said, "Well, how much is, my name, school costing you?" I said, "What are you asking him for? I'm the one paying for it." Later on, my dad was peed off and said that it was out of line to say that, and I embarrassed him. I didn't do it to embarrass him. I was just being honest. He doesn't even know how much tuition is, so he was the wrong person to ask. Am I the a-hole? Holy crap, no you are not. Your dad is the a-hole. Your dad sounds like kind of a tremendous a-hole in some regards. Parents, You can't be so controlling of your kid like that and so demanding. I know that it usually does come from a place of like love and concern. You want your kid to succeed. You want to push them to be the best them, but you also can't be overbearing and controlling and stuff like that. Like that's just going to breed a bad relationship between the two of you, make the kid resentful, and sometimes they're going to rebel against you and do worse. So right off the bat, not a great start. But then for the dad to get mad that you decided, you know what, I don't want his money, I don't want to deal with that stuff, I'm going to pay my own way. And then you saying like, you're the one paying for it. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, your dad has no right to be embarrassed or upset about that stuff. Screw him, I'm sorry, your dad made his bed of you shutting him out of that part of your life, and now he gets to sleep in it, so screw him. Story 2. A stranger tells me, smile, it could be worse. Instantly regrets it. Last week I was out and about making a start on some errands I had. As I was walking, I was going through my long to-do list in my head, so I wasn't frowning, I wasn't smiling, my face was just in neutral. A man starts heading towards me. As we pass, he tells me, smile, it could be worse. I stop, stare at him for a moment, and then say, my parents were in an accident. My mom died on impact. We're turning off my dad's life support tomorrow. The guy looked like a robot being suddenly shut down. His face fell. He looked like a deer in headlights. He stuttered and stammered. He was obviously trying to think of something to say, and when he couldn't, he turned around and speed walked away. My parents are both fine. There was no accident. But it annoys me when people think they have the right to dictate how people are feeling and what expressions they make, especially when they don't know what is going on in their lives. It's unhelpful and patronizing. Imagine telling somebody who's just been given a terminal diagnosis, smile, it could be worse, or somebody who's lost a child, been laid off, or is otherwise struggling in a terrible situation. I get where folks like this are coming from because, they want to spread joy in the world in, frankly, the laziest way possible, let's be honest. But still, in their mind, they're just trying to spread some positivity. They see someone that they think isn't happy and they're like, you know what? I'm going to remind them to be happy, which isn't really how things work. It's very simplistic, but I think oftentimes it's good intentioned, unless it's phrased as, you'd be prettier if you smile. I'm sorry, if you say that, then you're being just kind of sleazy and gross. Don't tell people that. Don't judge people's looks, especially, it's women who hear this all the time, for the most part. That one don't do. Some of this other stuff, yeah, you're trying to make people more positive, but like this person says, you don't know what they're going through. You don't know what they've just been through. And a lot of times, this lazy attempt at making the world a more positive place really does shine through more as just lazy and kind of ignorant. And so be careful when you just sling out unsolicited cheerfulness like that. It's not going to be welcome all the time. Story 3. My 35 female ex-husband's daughter announced she's getting married and wanted the family's heirloom ring? My ex-husband and I married too young. It was a classic white wedding with vows and the tradition of passing down a family ring. My ex was given his great-grandmother's wedding ring to give to me on our wedding day. We had a wonderful start, but we both really weren't ready to settle. He cheated on me and my drinking turned into alcoholism. We divorced and the ring was never really discussed, so I've kept it all this time. We married at 19 and divorced by 22. Luckily, we didn't have kids. We went our separate ways. He found someone and remarried and had a girl, and boy, my journey has been harder. Alcoholism took many things from me, but I kept the old wedding ring. Never pawned, traded, or lost it, even during some really dark times. Even though my marriage ended, it was like a memory of a better time. I've gotten clean, and so far I'm on a long winning streak getting my life put back together. Through the gossip lines, I found out my ex is still married and his daughter, their oldest, just got engaged. I still have his great-grandmother's ring. He talked with me before we even married how he wanted to pass it down to his daughter one day. We haven't talked once after all these years. I don't know if he still wants his daughter to have this ring. Maybe he's forgotten about it. I feel conflicted about what to do. It wasn't a good ending. We were so young and stupid and mutually overly entitled. Should I get in touch or let sleeping dogs lie? Mail it as a wedding gift with a card anonymously, or say it's from me? Edit. Thank you all for your kindness. I will definitely get in touch with him and let him decide where we go from there. Hopefully he'll want to meet face to face. It would be nice to see him after all this time. I'll keep his account up and will give an update if anything happens. Okay, at this point there is a brief recap of what we just read in the update. I had the ring professionally cleaned at a jeweler and given a pretty box to put in. While I was there, I took the advice of one commenter and ordered myself a ring. Instead of an inset diamond, I gave mine a ruby. It was my grandmother's name, and she never gave up on me, and it seemed fitting considering the other ring belonged to a great-grandmother. I decided to have maybe a cliche engraved of the word forward because that's how I've made it here to where I am now, by moving forward. My ex lives about 2 hours into town, and I had a girlfriend come with me. First, we drove by, and there weren't any cars, so we grabbed lunch and tried again. This time, someone was home, and I decided to leave things be. I had my friend go up to the door and knock. I saw him open the door. She handed him the package and pretty much headed straight back to the car. He didn't say much, she told me. Seemed a bit confused, but thanked her, and that was it. I didn't get to see if it made him happy or if he called his mother saying the ring found its way home. I imagine him beaming while explaining the ring to his wife as he passed it to his daughter. It is fun to imagine. I also imagine a lot of crying and hugging, but that's probably going too far. I had a note with it. I wrote almost exactly what a commenter suggested. It's been an honor and privilege to be a part of the history of this ring. Please accept it back with best wishes to your family and to your daughter's engagement. In a way, I kind of like not knowing how everyone reacted. I can daydream about it, my own fairy tale. I didn't include any way to contact me, just my name. I found him and feel if he wants to, he'll find me, but I don't see much point. Our time was short and it ended, and this is probably the best closure I never expected. It makes my heart lighter. Thank you all for helping and sharing this with me. This is actually a really touching story, and I'm really happy that the poster shared it with us because it also makes some great points. Like, that marriage sounds like it was not a healthy one at all. They got married too young, admittedly. They had troubles, and it barely lasted, 3 years or so. And, she struggled afterwards and everything, but she's put her life back together. And I think it was probably the healthy choice to not need to interact with him and see how things went, but to just realize that it was a part of her past. She can still respect him as a person. They've both moved on. And I think that brings a really kind of beautiful sense of closure to give that symbol of their marriage back, but getting your own one, kind of remembering where you came from and what you've been through, because you shouldn't hang on to stuff in the past that went wrong necessarily, but it is healthy to be able to at least remember it. And I don't know, this feels like kind of a really beautiful metaphor for that whole concept. So cool. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.